so we have this all for you to watch back. Alright, we're good.
The two main ones for this, they're on my first page of recent games, so they're not hard to find. It's the Anti-Mage game. It was mostly that I was split pushing a lot that game, but I felt like I did quite a bit with it, but I thought I might be able to achieve more, and I just like wanted some tips on it, like what to do, because it was mostly all I was able to do for a lot of the game, but I wasn't able to ever get a building out of it.
Well, the first thing that I want to point out is, if you're split pushing a lot, you're doing the wrong build. You'd much rather have a Manta to split push. The only stun that they have is the Slardar. And you don't really want to BKB just to not get stunned by a Slardar.
I had mentioned.
Oh, did you? Okay. Yeah, you had it. I was looking at it wrong. But even still, it's like you can just... The only other lockdown that they have is this guy's silence. So you can get out of this guy's ult so they can't track you, and this guy's silence just by having your Manta. So your BKB that you're getting, if you're just split pushing, is really just for this guy's stun, which is not really worth it.
You're not screen sharing.
Okay. Here, I'm gonna go into it. The game. But yeah, I was basically saying, the only really reason that you would want to BKB if you're split pushing is the Slardar stun, and you don't really want to just like BKB to dodge a stun when you could just like blink away or something.
I got the BKB to be able to try to man fight the PL and fight him harder because the mana burn was destroying me.
Well, your objective was to split push, and the point of what I'm saying is, if you're trying to split push, you don't want to be fighting the PL. So the
early game went really poorly, so I was split pushing, but there was a couple times I had to come back and fight because they were pushing at high ground, and we had other people dead.
Usually you can just cut their wave or do something like that if you're going the split push route.
Okay.
We'll see though. Did you have specific times that you had marked down for us to?
I started split pushing at like 24 minutes.
Alright, we can go to that.
So.
Yeah, so getting your Manta is important. You're pretty killable just by getting silenced until you have the Manta, so it's good if you're not split pushing until then. Now you have it, you're a lot safer. Here, a small little thing that you can do, because the PL doesn't end up pushing, this doesn't matter too much, but if you, if right here, you went for the hard camp instead of running down, and then you caught the creep wave, like the next creep wave, it's a good way to stop this guy's push altogether. And you get more gold out of the creeps, and he can't push, and then he's just kind of like stuck here. If he has bots, he might like just leave. So it's just kind of like you're gonna get the same farm, if not more. It's a little bit dangerous. If the Slardar shows up there, then you can be a little bit of danger. But like you're not really worried about a Slardar and a if you play it right, you're really not gonna die because you're gonna be in this area, and then you're gonna be over here and cut this creep wave, and a Skywrath Slardar isn't gonna kill you by themselves, and the PL's not gonna get there in time to do anything to you. So if you went here and then cut this wave, that would leave this guy just like out doing nothing, and then you can like jungle this shit real quick and then head back up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And does that make sense why you would want to do that over jungling this camp?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's important to know not only the what, but the why. So I like to go over stuff sometimes. So he backs here, so it doesn't seem to do anything. That play wouldn't have mattered there. But it's kind of like, either way, the the going behind and the cutting the creep wave isn't bad, no matter what the PL does. But if the PL decides to stay, then it's amazing that you did this. So here, it wouldn't have changed anything at all, but let's say there's a 20% chance this PL decides to stay, then you just completely ruined what he's trying to do.
Okay.
Here, you don't want to Manta. You would much rather... You'd much rather get the auto attacks off, kill these creeps, let your creeps go on the tower, save your Manta, because your Manta is what allows you to fight. It's not that you have the stats from the Manta, it's that you can dispel with your Manta, and you can jump on people and kill with your Manta. So if you just throw out like 2 or 3 more attacks there, and then TP with your Manta, you would be a lot stronger. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. And here it's just kind of like, with your Quap dead, it's just kind of, when I see the Quap's dead, I'd probably cancel my TP. Because all that's left is this guy's going to repel you. This guy's probably not going to do anything. So it's just kind of like you with Repel and Dark Willow versus 4 or 5 people. And you're not really going to do too much here. So what you should be doing instead is kind of like allowing that... If you come here, they're going to get basically what they're going to get no matter what. Like, you're not going to stop them from getting anything. But if you go top, you might be able to get this tower, or maybe the Bristleback TP's up here, you can blink back and then TP mid, and then you might have a favorable fight because you just basically deleted one of their teammates before you even got there. Does all of that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's like small shit like this with the split pushing is huge, because that means you're gonna have like 2 or 3 towers more per game by doing it correctly. And it's like, yeah, you get here and then your Manta's on cooldown and your Quap's dead. You just can't really like do anything. Yeah, you come here, you die, you get... Your Omni Knight probably wouldn't have died if you weren't here, because they would have been, yeah, we can't do anything. You wouldn't have died if you didn't come back. You would have got the top tier 1, you'd be pressuring the tier 2. You might make one of them TP back. They got the tower anyways. So, and these are all things that you can like kind of predict before you even finish that TP, right? Like looking at the Quap being dead, knowing that Techies doesn't really contribute to fights too much. Omni Knight like might throw out a good heal, but he's mostly just a repel. And then you have like a support Dark Willow, I think. I think she's a support.
She was, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it's like you're gonna TP back into 4 when you have an Omni Knight and a Dark Willow, and you're a AM without Manta style. So this is huge. You probably would have been... They would be backing right now. They would have their tier 1 down. They'd be backing to defend their tier 2 right now. And you'd be alive. You'd probably have like 600, 700 more gold by the time you spawn. They'd have 300, 400 less gold from killing you, and then whatever from Omni Knight. Okay, this is fine. I was gonna say if you TP a little bit later, you could have cut this wave too. I think it's, yeah. But you try to get there a little bit sooner, so I guess it's fine. Like right now, this tower would have been at 600. It probably would have taken like 600 damage if you hadn't TP'd back here. That tower would have already been down. You guys could be like moving mid and pushing there instead of being at the top tier 1.
Okay, I'm back.
Alright. Your dog sounds like it's coughing when it barks.
It's an old small dog.
Ah, I gotcha.
This fight I felt very tighted. I was thinking afterwards, like I wasn't really sure about whether I should have gone trying to kill the Skywrath. I didn't really have a way to keep him next to me.
You almost got him there, but it's here is like you would have got the kill if you blinked right here instead. And it's you slightly blink downhill is the problem here.
Okay.
Which is it gives him the time to like get away from you enough. And then now you're just kind of fucked. Did you?
He silenced me in his ulti earlier.
Well, I'm watching your treads. Usually on fights, or in fights as AM, unless you're like in zero danger, you should probably just be on strength treads.
Yeah, sometimes I do it and then it doesn't switch all the way.
Yeah, it's just kind of like
my computer, I might just input it a little bit too fast or something.
Lol, feels bad, too good for my computer. But yeah, it's just kind of like
a lot where I tread switch and it doesn't fully switch and I have to go and do it again.
Gotcha. Well, the point is, it's just kind of like you're not really gonna get any benefit from ints or agi treads in the middle of a team fight. Like when you're jumping around from camp to camp, it's like you have nothing better to do. So like why not? But in the middle of a fight where a tenth of a second off can throw the fight, it's just kind of like not worth it to tread switch unless it's like a very simple fight, if that makes any sense. Because especially on AM, your hero, you have a ton of armor, even with the Corrosive Fave. You have the Vanguard, you have the magic resistance, so you're very resistant to damage. So just having more health does a lot for you. And a lot of your damage only like this damage, the agility gives you more attack speed, but you don't really care about the attack damage on either your Manta or your Mana Break or your Void. So the amount of damage that you get extra by being on Agi is like 2 or 3%, whereas right now the amount of health that you get bonus by being on Strength Treads is probably around 12 to 13%. So you get much more out of having Strength Treads basically the entire fight than like switching to these int treads. That's not going to do anything for you, like at all. Switching to attitude treads, like maybe if somebody's running away and you want that, you know that they're not going to turn on you, and that little bit of agility might get you an extra. You might attack faster and run a little bit quicker because of the movement speed from agility. But it's just kind of like strength treads 95% of the time is just so much better than everything else that it's kind of like when I go into a fight as an AM, I just kind of like leave my treads on strength and then focus completely on everything else.
Okay.
And if you had strength treads all this time, let's watch you take you drop down to what did
right there I finally realized my treads were on.
Yeah, you drop down to 650-ish, and then you drop down to, so you took about like 1,300 damage before you switched to power treads. So you probably lost like 150 health that you would have had if you started on strength treads. And then if you had the extra little bit, you still would have died, but it's like, wouldn't you...
There's a lot of fights I might survive.
Yeah, like if, let's say your Manta was up in a second, the strength treads would have let you get your Manta and blink out and survive. And it's just kind of like the amount of times that you switching to your int treads is going to do anything at all in this position is so low compared to the amount of times that you're just going to get busy and not be able to switch to your strength treads. It's just kind of like, it's not worth it. Like, I'm sure I don't watch Arteezy, but he probably just leaves his shit on strength treads when he fights on AM, unless it's like there's clearly no way he's gonna die or anything like that. Like if you have 700 mana on AM, you switching to int treads is gonna save you like 3 mana on your blink or some shit. So you kind of traded, like, even if it's like 10 mana you save, even if your blink was free, let's say you saved 60 mana by switching your int treads there, wouldn't you much rather have the 150 health, like, every single time?
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like, at this point, with your team composition, even just looking at it, you don't really want to fight. Like, Techies is just, like, a non-factor in fights. And then Omni Knight just, like, buffs one of you guys. So, what it looks like is you're going to delay the game with the... Your team composition is, like, super favored to lose the game. Because Techies delays the game, and neither of you really want the game to go past 45 minutes, because you get 6 slotted, and then Quap falls off after her early power spike, and then PL, TA, and Bristleback just get stronger, and Slardar gets stronger. Skywrath kind of, but not really. So your team composition alone just kind of sucks, but there's not too much to say about that. But with keeping your team composition in mind, you should know that you don't want to fight at all, like, the entire game, basically. You want to get, like, kills with Techies, mines, maybe, and then do something with that, or if your Quap can get a pick off. But it's kind of like, these three should be together doing stuff, this guy should do whatever the fuck he does, and then you should be split pushing. And with that in mind, you shouldn't be going for an Abyssal. You should be going for something that lets you split push better, like a Butterfly or some shit like that. Does all of that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think he lost picks to Techies.
Yeah, Techies is not too fun to play with. I
have Techies a lot in my games. I picked the AM because I saw the Skywrath and Bristleback. I think they picked Skywrath, Bristle, Slardar, and TA or something. Or just Skywrath, Bristle, actually. So I picked the AM. I think that was the pick order.
You had last pick on your team. The only one that they didn't have picked
pick
was...
Okay.
And with... I guess the pick here, which is probably important to talk about, you probably went with the AM because you got a mango, and that shit's too appetizing to pass up sometimes. What would be the pick here? The only one that you don't know about is the Slardar. Here, one sec.
Isn't there a website or something for this?
Yeah, there's, I'm gonna send you, it's, you just Google, Dota 2, whatever the hero's name is, and then match up.
I know that there's a website for, like, with this enemy team, what's the highest?
Yeah, I've seen that thing, but I don't like it too much because it's like, you get away from figuring things out from it, and it's more of like, I'm gonna put in all these parts and you're gonna do all the work for me. Whereas if you look up Phantom Lancer's counters, then you can be like, okay, he's bad against Sven. How's Sven look to the rest of the draft? And then you're like, all of their damage is physical on these three guys. Sven has a fuck ton of armor. He can clear out this guy's illusions. We have a Omni Knight is much better with Sven than he is AM. The game's probably going to go late, and a late game Sven can like two-shot like everyone except for like TA. So I think Sven would be a really good pick here. Because this guy's all physical, all physical, amps physical, and then it would also help the rest of your teammates with the armor. So yeah, Sven would have been a really good pick this game.
I hadn't really thought about Sven. I was thinking about Timbersaw, but then I didn't want to pick it into the Skyrim.
Well, yeah, I didn't like. I honestly didn't think of Sven, and then I went to the site that I linked you, and I looked for the first. I looked at the carries that are at the top of this, and then I saw Sven, and then I'm like, oh wow, that actually fits really well against their draft. They're all physical. We need wave clear. The game's gonna go late probably because we have a techies, so that means I'm gonna get my farm. And if I get my farm, I'm going to be able to do a lot. We have Repel. I can possibly skip BKB. And it's just, I didn't think of Sven, but I saw Sven on the list, and then I'm like, alright, well actually that's a really good pick here. And that's why I like this site as opposed to the one that just like pops up random ones. So was there another, did you have more things that you wanted to go over?
Not with this game.
Okay.
Not much, no.
Was there another game you wanted to go to?
Was the Witch Doctor game, which is slightly down. It's just the first game off of the first page. This game, I wasn't really like in team fights. I was having a really hard time surviving.
Oh, I'm guessing Aeon Disc doesn't stop your ult's damage?
I don't think it does. I don't know. I didn't get my ulti off after the game at that point. They had their mega creeps and I sort of just died.
Here, I can test that real quick. Because that's actually pretty... That's kind of cool to know. And then that I assume that means like Venomancer and shit like that. Shadow Shaman. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I got it. I didn't know that. I got it just because I was getting blown up instantly at the start of every team fight by their Storm or their Monkey King.
Did you have a time that you wanted me to go to on this one?
The first team fight where I was just like sort of just died was at 26 minutes, like 26:30 or something.
Okay. And we, is this the last main thing you wanted me to look at?
There was one more, but it's like more general. So,
okay.
And this one was more.
Alright, I'm just trying to time, or figure out how much time I can give to what.
The other one might take a really long time to answer, I'm not sure, so this one would probably be better to spend time on.
Alright. I think... I don't like that you're going Atos. I understand that it's really good against the Storm and it stops this guy from moving, but like you have lockdown with the Pudge and the OD, and the OD even has an Atos, so it's kind of like having two is like 30% better than having one. Do you agree with that? Do you want me to go more into that, like how having multiples of an item?
I wasn't. That was one of the things, is I really wasn't sure what to go this game, because I knew at this point that I was already just going to start just dying repeatedly. So I thought that the stats from the bracers would be nice, and we also like need a little bit more lockdown against their team.
Okay. Well, the thing with like items like Atos falling off when you have multiples is like, let's say a Storm zips in, him having his is just as good as both of you having them. Does that make sense? Like, you only need one person to hit it, and then from there, you, like, kind of kill them. It's kind of like having 2 sheep sticks. Usually you can kill somebody in the first sheep, or the first sheep is enough to set up everything else. So having the second one is just kind of like the amount of times that you're going to use the second Atos in a way that is just as efficient as the first time that you use the Atos is very small. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So with specifically Atos, like this, it's kind of different than Force Staff. Like Force Staff, if your whole team has Force Staff, it's still really good because that pops up a lot, but not so much with Atos. And it's like, you don't really want more than 2 Glimmer Capes, though. Blink Dagger, like, you can have your whole team have a Blink Dagger. It's just kind of like some items, it kind of falls off. It depends on the purpose, I guess. I don't know what other items would be like that.
Fuels in some games, like
yeah,
Max or something.
I guess. But usually you get the Yules more for the stats. And kind of like the Yules is oftentimes it's a purge on yourself, which means that they either have a single or an AoE disable. Like if they have a silencer and your whole team gets Yules, it's not that bad. Because you guys just Yules yourself when he ults, and then you all purge off your silences. But if your whole team doesn't really want to get a Yules, and then you get a Yules just because there's an axe, then yes, it does fall under the... It falls off like Atos does. But like, let's say you have like a Lina, Leshrek, who else gets Yules? SF, and you all get your Yules, but it's like not for the reason of setting up a lockdown on somebody for a team fight. Like, Atos is specifically for, I'm gonna root somebody. Whereas Yules is, I want to not be targeted for 2.5 seconds. I want to get purged. I want to lock somebody down so I can run away from them. I want to dispel somebody on the enemy team. I want the movement speed. I want the regen. It's just, Atos is kind of like, I want health and I want to lock somebody else down. Whereas Yules is a lot of different things. So it's a little bit different. But here, with this guy getting the Atos, of course, like, if either of these guys gets one of their items off on the Storm can't do anything. So you having the Atos doesn't add to that at all. I would have much rather seen you get like a Glimmer Cape, because the Glimmer Cape will tank you up a good little bit, and then when you go invisible, Storm Spirit probably won't really want to be carrying a dust just for a Witch Doctor. And then you're a lot more likely to be able to save yourself or your team, and then also has the benefit of being able to be used aggressively, so you can get your ult off without getting like hexed or whatever. And if they don't know exactly where you are, they can miss the Lion and the Monkey King ult, or the stuns, the Earth Spike and the Boundless Strike. So I would have much rather seen you get a Glimmer Cape here, because it gives you about, what would it? It would give you about the same survivability against a Storm Spirit, just with the 15% magic resistance, as the strength from the Atos would give you. Or at least, like, gold per gold wise, it would give you about the same survivability. And then being invisible for 5 seconds, of course, is just like, unless the Storm has a dust, you're just like, fine. Because when he zips in, he's usually in a dangerous spot, and he wants to kill you quick and then go out. But if he has to stay for an extra 5 seconds because you have a 2,000 gold item, it changes a lot of how he has to play. Does that help with itemization for this?
I was also, a lot of the time I was dying to the Monkey King more. He would just like jump me, and then the double hit from, gosh, why do I always forget it?
Echo Saber.
From Echo Saber, and then he would just Q me and I would die from that. there was only like one fight I think where the Storm was the one who killed me. He just like zapped on me and it did like 3/4 of my HP.
Well, that's...
Yeah, in that case, the Glimmer probably would have saved my life.
Yeah, it's gonna take him like a second and a half to get his third attack off. Or he's gonna get the 2 attacks with Echo Saber, and he probably wants to echo you, slow you, get those 2 hits, and then get a third in for free, and then try for the 4th before he does his stun. Because then he has the bonus damage on his crit multiplier on his Q. And your Glimmer Cape would allow you to bypass that, and he has to use his stun before Jingu stacks. And part of that is you want to be positioning yourself so that if the Monkey King or the Storm Spirit jump on you, they're in a compromised position that your team can go on them from. And if it's like, alright, well, you killed me, but then you got silenced, Atos, and you just died. It's like, alright, I basically just killed the Storm Spirit or a Monkey King.
Okay.
So, like, here, your positioning is, you want to be a lot closer to your teammates here. You want to be, like, right here-ish behind him. And stay kind of, like, here. And go in with him. Being right here is how you're going to get killed. You see how, if the Storm really should have went on you. One sec, let me watch this. I guess this happens. But, okay, this is a little bit different. Let's say the Pudge doesn't hook the Lion. The Storm would have went on you right here, right? Like, if the Lion was fine, he sees you, and then he knows that these 2 guys are over here, there's nothing stopping him from just going on you, and you're going to feed Bloodstone charges to both of these guys. But if you were, like, right here, then when he goes on you, this guy can Astral you, and then Atos him, and then, like, ult him, drain all of his mana, and then you guys can kill him from there, and then if the Timber and the Lion try and do anything to you, you can just coconut them. And that's just like, you see how different the game plays out by you just being right here instead of right here.
Okay.
It ends up fine. It's just like, if that Hulk came out like a second later, the whole thing would have been different, so it's a, like, percentage-wise play.
Like, that was the first time where I just died.
Well, you kind of just run into a Monkey King ult. Or is that a... Okay,
that's
no.
Not an ult. That's
okay,
a
yeah.
bug.
Gotcha.
He was invis, I think. Yeah, he was just like invis in those trees up there.
Yeah, feels bad.
And that's when I like started to realize I was just really going to die every fight, no matter what.
Yeah. And that goes along with it. You're positioning yourself in a way that if Monkey King goes on you, he's not punished for it. Like, see how far away you are from the rest of your team? Like, that guy doesn't have the range to Astral you or anything. And then this all breaks out. And it's just kind of like, yeah, you have the stats from the Atos, but it's like they don't do anything for you because you staying alive usually just means Jingu stacks for the Monkey King when you get an Atos. Like, it gives you 300 health, but is 300 health really going to save you if you have a fed Storm Spirit, Monkey King, or Timbersaw on you? And it's just kind of like, no. The best thing that you can do is somehow get away from them, and the best item for that is a Glimmer Cape. If they get dust, then it's like, alright, cool. They're going to have dust on all 3 of their cores, or sometimes I'm just going to walk away. And if they have 3... If you buy one thing that makes 3 of their cores on the enemy team fill up slots, it's like, well, I just fucking did a bunch of great shit. And then it's like you could have glimmered the OD there, and he could have saved his Hurricane Pike. Does this answer your question for this replay?
Yeah, a little bit.
Atos, I think 4 staff next would have been pretty good. I wouldn't have minded you getting like Atos, or not, Glimmer Cape, 4 staff, and then like Guardian Greaves, just to break the silence. So then you can like coconut and shit like that. And like being able to run your Voodoo Restoration is pretty important. If you can run that at the start of the fight when you take your first instance of damage, it heals for a fuck ton. If they don't kill you like right away, you're getting 40 health per second when you have it maxed. And it's like right there you could have glimmered him and he probably would, yeah, he lives anyways, but it's close. Yeah, it's just kind of like they have a bunch of people that jump on you. As a squishy support with no escape of your own, you can't afford to go offensively. I think that's the best way to look at it. You're not going to do anything if you're dead, but maybe you get an amazing coconut off if you survive. Like if the Monkey King and the Storm Spirit jump on you and you survive, and then you can coconut them and they're stunned for like 4 seconds grouped up, you just probably won yourself the game off of that one little play, because you just shit on their 2 cores that expected fully to just kill you.
Okay.
So it's just kind of like 3,000 gold on a support to be able to lock somebody down for 2 seconds. It just doesn't really make sense. So is that good? Do you want to go to the other question or whatever?
Yeah, the other one, there's a couple of games you could do. It was just with the Battle Fury PL. So I've played a PL a lot in the past. He's one of my more played heroes. And just, I think like yesterday or something, I started to try the Battle Fury build. And I'm feeling very uncomfortable with farming with it. Just like, I farm too quickly for the like farm the way I used to farm on PL, and I like feel like I'm wasting a lot of time.
Okay. So you're more asking about what to do with farm rather than if Battle Fury is good?
No. With the Battle Fury, like I'm killing the camps a lot faster than I'm used to. So like I feel like I'm wasting a lot of time getting like while I'm farming, I'm wasting a lot of time. Okay.
So the question is not so much about the Battle Fury. It's about
it's
what
farming.
Okay. Because my opinion on the Battle Fury is I don't play PL, so I don't know for sure. And this is more of a guess from my game knowledge rather than specifically knowing. But I think Ags is probably a better alternative than Battle Fury because it essentially is the same thing. It makes your Q clear out entire waves, but it's also useful later on in the game, much more than Battle Fury is. Because you can like nuke down waves and all that shit, and they scale. And one of the things with PL is oftentimes games go so that you're not strong enough to actually run in by yourself, and oftentimes you just send your illusions in. And Battle Fury does nothing when you do that, whereas Ags allows you to do that much better. And Ags gives you like 400 health, which is pretty important on PL.
I'm more used to farming Ags because I used to build that, and then I stopped building it. It's pretty different from the Battle Fury, because Battle Fury you have to stand there and hit it. The Ags you sort of just like throw your Q and walk away.
Yeah. Another thing with Battle Fury is your hero takes forever to come online if you do that. So if they just push when you do that build, you're just kind of useless because you're low health. You don't really have any. Like AM can get away with it because he has to. There isn't anything AM can do to be helpful before his Manta style. And if he just goes Manta first, then it's just kind of like, even with his Manta, he's still squishy. So he needs Manta and another item after that to actually go in and fight. So it's just kind of like Battle Fury. If he goes Battle Fury before the Manta, he'll get to his third item, his first item after the Manta style, faster than if he didn't go Battle Fury. So it's just kind of like a no-brainer to go it on him. But with PL, if you go, like PL can go different builds. Like he can go Treads, Diffusal, and actually fight at 15 minutes or whatever. Whereas AM has no chance of doing that. So it's like, it's just something to keep in mind. You're going to be useless for a long time if you go for the Battle Fury build, unless you just get completely fed. But then it's just kind of like, you can go any build in that situation and you'll be fine. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But with Ags, it's kind of like you have a decent build up. It's a good bit cheaper. And like you have a power spike in fighting when you build it, kind of. Like you still don't want to fight, but if you have to, you actually can fight. And if you have to stall out a game, Ags is much better than Battle Fury for that, because you'll be usually like standing out here and you'll throw out a Q, and that's all you can do. If you run up with your Battle Fury and start right-clicking the creeps, you'll like die. So with Ags, you can use the full utility of it while standing back here. So you can like nuke down waves. If this guy throws out his Spirit and you throw out an Ags Lance, it will probably kill an entire wave. Whereas if you have Battle Fury, it's just kind of like you guys don't have enough damage to clear a wave. So it's not, I don't want to say Battle Fury is bad, because I honestly don't know. It could be horrible, it could be great. I just don't have the experience with it to say, so I'm going to more talk about what happens when you have the Battle Fury. Is that kind of like what you're looking for?
It was mostly like once I got to jungling, I just felt like I was wasting a lot of time.
Okay, do you know exactly when you jungle?
Not really.
Okay.
I sort of just like when I feel like I can't lane anymore, go and do it until I feel.
Well,
like
I mean, in this game specifically.
I didn't jungle for a while because I was destroying the off lane. Like they never really rotated, and I got like 4 solo kills on him.
Right. So I'm just going to go through this quick and watch your farming patterns, and comment if I see anything that's comment worthy. Is that kind of what you're looking for?
Yeah, that would probably be fine.
Okay. This is good. It's, as a carry, it's not so much what your farm is, it's what your farm is relative to the enemy carry, oftentimes. So you coming here and making the AM have to leave is very good. One small thing, I don't like this. I don't want you running mid here. I'd much rather see you pushing this tower. Because the build that you're going is a farming build. So this is like an AM showing up to a fight early. You're like ahead of everyone in levels and all that, but it's still, even if you're doing amazing as a AM in a game, you still don't want to show up to a fight until you have your Manta style, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with this hero, it's kind of like you want your Manta style +1. So here, you probably would have taken bottom tower by now, if you were just bottom. And then you show up to this fight, and you have all this farm and all this net worth and all this advantage, but most of it's in a Battle Fury and a Yasha. So really, you're really good at right-clicking people, but you don't really have the health to right-click people yet. And aside from that, all you are is a Spirit Lance. So no matter how well this goes, it's still just kind of like, you should be lucky that it was the exact situation that it was when you showed up. Like, you get 3 kills, but I still don't like this. I would have much rather seen you... Like, the chances of you showing up and it being this exact situation where you get these 3 kills is so low that if you just compare it to taking this bottom tier 2 with a 60%... like, 60% of the time, you'll just get this tower. 30% of the time, somebody will TP there, and that means you guys win the mid fight anyways. So it's like 10% chance you push bottom and something that's not amazing happens. But going mid, you have a 10% chance of something actually good happening, and then the rest of the chance is just I showed up, the fight was already over. I showed up, we died. Showed up, and the AM also showed up, and he just mana bursted my CM or something, and it kills us all or whatever. Does all of that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, right now, you guys got 3 kills, which is really good, but you didn't get anything out of it. You didn't get any objectives. And the only reason that you get kills in any game is to eventually get objectives. So why go for the kills that only give you objectives when you can just go for the objectives anyways?
Okay.
And here, you going hard, you're just going to be, like, tanky and useless. Like, if we look at this build, all you are in a team fight is a tanky, a lot of illusions that right-click for, like, decent damage. And that's with you being extremely ahead. So it's just kind of like, you have a huge advantage, but it's just kind of meh. And I think that's just kind of like what happens when you go Battle Fury. Because you want your Diffusal Blade so that your illusions do damage, and you have the slow to stick on people, and it's a really good item on PL. And then you want your Manta style to make sure you're safe, to dispel everything, to create more illusions. The stats are good, the movement speed's good. And then you want the heart so that you don't die right away. So it's kind of like you really want 3 items before you can do anything, because if you just have the Diffusal and the Manta, you're too squishy. If you just have the Manta and the heart, you don't do enough damage. If you just have the heart and the Diffusal, you don't have enough illusions or attack speed. So it's kind of like you oftentimes want those 3 items, or like something along those lines, before you start fighting. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then Battle Fury is kind of like, alright, well, now I need to have 4 items before I do anything. So it's it could be fine, because you're like, the Battle Fury might help you get to that 4 items before like you might get your Diffusal, Heart, and Manta quicker with a Battle Fury than if you had just skipped it. But yeah.
In the meantime, I can't really do much.
Yeah. Here's a small thing.
I might be able to kill someone.
You should be jumping over this with your doppelganger. That would have saved you like good 2-3 seconds with running around it. And I think the main thing is you're trying to be too. You're trying to fight too much.
I'm too used to building Diffusal.
Yeah, you go the farming split push build, and then you fight with it. And I think that's the main takeaway in this game, more so than looking at how to jungle and all of that.
Something separate than late game, there was a lot of the time I was having an easy time killing the Tinker or killing the AM, but then when they were fighting together, I wasn't really able to like do anything to either of them. So and I was not sure like what I needed to go.
Do you know about what time that was?
It was a lot later. This is a longer game. It was probably coming up soon though. They didn't fight together for a very long time because their AM was behind.
Well, this guy doesn't have
time when I felt like it.
This guy doesn't have sheep, so you're not too worried about. Yeah, I guess you need BKB for these 2 guys, Because that's
he
like...
got sheep pretty soon after this.
Okay. Does he? It looks like he's going... If this guy has sheep, you have to get BKB. Like 100%.
Yeah, he got sheep instead of
okay.
Bloodstone.
So then your BKB's fine. The butterfly's fine. You, like, right now, you're about as strong as you're gonna get. So it's kind of like... I would be looking to get my bots here. I would be telling my team to push out mid and top. And I would be bottom. And then I would TP top and we would take the racks. It's kind of like what I'm looking at. And if you don't feel like you can do that... like, I don't have the full feel for the game right now. Because I just, like, jumped to it. I don't know how strong everyone is relative to everyone else. If you feel like you can't do that, then your next option is push out top and mid and then go for the Roche. And then fight from there. But those are really your two options here. And if you have mid and bottom pushed out with your megas, and you guys are post up here, you can just run in and right click the tower when you see anyone else anywhere else. And then it's like you guys have an advantage and it's a 4v5. So if they go on you, you can even just like die with your Aegis and then respawn, get your BKB off, and kill the racks, and there's no way that they stop you. Because they don't have any BKBs piercing anythings. And like here, if you had bots, you could basically go end the game. You could bots mid, push it out, and then when it breaks high ground, go top, and just so right here, yeah, you have the gold for your bots. If you had your bots, flew them out, went here, cleared out this wave, had your creeps break the defense, then you can go take this right now. And if they try and do anything to you, you have your BKB that lasts 10 seconds. So they can't really stop you from taking this tower. And then when you have this tower, it's super easy to get the racks. And I think you just win the game if you do that right now. And like that was a waste of time. I guess, it's not too big of a deal. It's kind of like the high ground is broken anyways. I would be just trying to get the tower. I don't really care about this AM. Also, BKB is good. You use it way too late. And what else is there? Looking at when the enemies are spawning is very important, because that gives you a timeline to get out. You're like, alright, the lion's gonna spawn in a few seconds. I want to get out before then, because if I'm locked down for 5 seconds by the lion, then I just die. Or if the TA is locked down for 5 seconds, then she just dies. Yeah, so that's kind of like, I think that's where... Did you lose this game?
We won, eventually. Okay. They both fought back and then fed separately. Yeah, so like right there you could have won the game. If you had your bots went in, pushed and then got the high ground, or the racks, or if you, right here, identified the lion's going to spawn soon. We don't really want to deal with a Tinker and a AM when they also have the 6.6 second stuns that lion can provide. But yeah, so any final questions? We went like a good bit over. No.
Alright, and I have that recorded, so I'm gonna put that up, and it should be up in like an hour or so.